I hope you'll have seen from my recent videos that I've been collecting, slowly building and putting together a Byzantine army for Saga Age of Vikings and Lion Rampant following the fantastic Viking in the Sun supplement. Now I'm going to focus on the Byzantine Auxiliaries box, plastic, multi-part, what's not to love.
And this is the Auxiliaries sprue. You can see there's 2, 4, 6, 8 heads, 5 bodies.
And so you'll have to give a bit of thought before you start assembling as to what you want from the box, because now, though this box gives you 25 miniatures, they kind of divide it up. You can get up to 10 pretty heavily armoured archers, up to 5 slingers, so no more than 5 slingers, and up to 10 javelin men. And that's basically what I've done. I went for the javelin men instead of the light archers, but basically what you'll see here are the 10 armoured archers, the 5 slingers, and 10 javelin men, which means I probably need another box of these, because in Lion Rampant, I'm pretty sure you need to have 12 units of 12 archers or slingers or javelin men. And in Saga, well, interesting. So normally people who throw things from afar in Saga are, mealy-mouthed peasants, and the Hearthguard, or the warriors, the guys in your warlord's retinue in this world where everything has collapsed. They're not going to, they're going to be heavily armored. They're not going to be throwing things at you. They're going to be up close and personal. And the units of Hearthguard are units of 4, and the units of their warriors who support them are 8, and then the Gumps of various descriptions throwing things are units of 12. Here was unusual because, and I suppose this goes to the history of it, because the Byzantines actually are a functioning proper state who don't just follow the warlord model for most of their time. Their archers are properly armoured and trained, and they can be warriors and units of 8. But slingers and javelin men, are still just auxiliaries told to just throw things and not run away. And they are still, I think, also units of 12. So, that would mean 3 boxes of slingers. But I resolved that by converting, as you'll see, from a different kit with the extra bits, extra heads, of which there are many in this box. These are the Psiloi, light infantry soldiers trained to harass the enemy with a barrage of projectiles. They carry only a round shield and a dagger or an axe. I couldn't be bothered with the dagger or the axe. I find that, just generally with miniatures, that it's not something anyone's going to notice, and who needs to stick on dozens of little daggers and axes and have to paint them. Everyone understands that these are Psiloi, carrying their javelins, and these javelins are, as I understand it, a bit dual purpose, longer than ancient javelins, because they're designed for having a bit of a chuck at the enemy, and or getting up close and personal and taking out anything in an opportune manner, because I think the Byzantines try not to fight too many actual pitched battles, and these guys are really just to stop raiders flying into the empire, and get out there quickly in response and try and get the goods back, and just sort of man forts and probably chuck these from the tops of the forts, or in some kind of mountains at the edge of the empire, I suppose in the west or in the east, in the kind of more desert setting. You also get these Psiloi, light infantry, but these guys carry staff slings, because they've got a staff with a sling at the end, which apparently massively increases their range. There's the gnome hat. I don't mean to demean some ancient culture, but I'm just not sure whether to paint the hats blue or red. And what I did with no historical accuracy whatsoever is take the 4 Cretan slingers from an early Victrix sprue, because they were not great models. Victrix now is obviously fantastic, but I think the earlier miniatures they didn't have the detail that they now have, and these seem to have normal slings, and as you can see, I just stuck on some of the heads, which are slightly too big, but not really. Overall, they look fine to me, and although they don't 100% mix in because they are a bit different, you know, this empire was all about hiring in mercenaries, so who's to say that a bunch of dudes from Crete, where it's very hot, didn't just rock up, get a helmet for their troubles for joining the unit, and say, we prefer our own little slings, which we've been practicing against sheep with, like King David, since we were kids. Bulk out the unit nicely. And these are the archers of the theme, with the unusual combination of bows and pretty heavy looking metallic lamellar armor. And these assemble perfectly nicely. Although they are a bit samey, but there are plenty of different heads. And they would all, I suppose, be in the same position. Would have been nice to have had some kind of, pulling arrows out of the quivers, loading. Well, I suppose it's all loading and firing. But, maybe they're just very disciplined and all doing the same thing at the same time, as you would expect. To give you a sense of how these look size-wise, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Empire Great Swordsman, or the kind of the human scale of a Games Workshop miniature, and they're about the same height, just not quite as beefy, all of these. I'm not sure they would fit into an Empire army. Though they probably are about the same as the newer Games Workshop zombies, for example. They're definitely in keeping with kind of Oathmark scale Frostgrave plastics, I would say. Ah, yes. What's that, Harold? Harold Hardrada being our guide to the Byzantine world. I think he's just pointing out that in that shots showing comparisons, actually the heavily armoured spearmen and their kite shields are from the spearman box, whereas only the psiloi, the heavily armoured archers, and the lightly armoured javelinmen and slingers are from this Auxiliaries box set. Thanks, Harold. And that's it for this one. Oh, I've just realised that spear is not supposed to be positioned with that arm in that way. I think it's supposed to be over his shoulder. Whoops. Oh well. At least, I know that I need another box. So that's what I'll sort then. Anyway, please do like and offer any comments and subscribe, and you'll hopefully one day see these painted. I'm sure they will be. Honest.